In the heart of Uganda, among the rolling green hills and the rhythmic drumbeats of Baganda, lies a cultural practice that few outsiders truly understand. It's whispered about, often misinterpreted, and rarely spoken of openly. Yet for generations, it has shaped what it means to be a woman among the Baganda people. This is the story of Labia Elongation, or as it's called locally, Kukialara and Siko. To the uninitiated it may sound strange, even controversial. But to those raised within the Baganda traditions, it's far more than a physical act. It's a rite of passage, a secret teaching, a moment when young girls begin their journey into womanhood under the careful guidance of their elders. It is where lessons about life, love, and identity begin. For many Baganda women, this tradition represents connection to their roots, to their ancestors, and to the wisdom of the Senga, the revered paternal aunt who teaches them. The Senga is not merely an instructor. She is the guardian of femininity, the bridge between girlhood and womanhood. And while outsiders may see labia elongation through a purely biological or critical lens, within the Baganda culture, it carries deep layers of meaning, symbolic, emotional, and spiritual. The origins of labia elongation among the Baganda trace back centuries, to a time when Baganda was an organized kingdom with intricate traditions, social systems, and clear roles for men and women. In pre-colonial Baganda, the concept of beauty extended far beyond outward appearance. Beauty was measured in discipline, patience, and the moral education a girl received from her elders. Physical aesthetics were intertwined with character and virtue, and the transition into womanhood was guided by a web of cultural teachings that shaped both body and spirit. Within this cultural framework, Kukialara and Siko, translated as visiting the bush, emerged as one of the symbolic stages of female initiation. It was not a random act, nor a casual experiment. It was an organized teaching passed from generation to generation under the supervision of respected female elders known as Senga. The Senga was far more than a relative. She was a mentor, an advisor, and a spiritual guide. She held a special place within Ganda society because she carried the secrets of womanhood, the kind of wisdom not taught in public spaces, but preserved within the home and the heart. Traditionally, a girl would be called aside by her Senga when she reached puberty, a time of physical and emotional transformation. This was often done discreetly, with a sense of reverence and pride. The Senga would prepare her, explaining that this was a sacred step, one that every Ganda woman before her had undergone. In this teaching, the Senga emphasized that Kukialara and Siko was not punishment, nor something shameful. It was a celebration of growth, a symbolic act of preparation for the new responsibilities that came with womanhood. In Baganda philosophy, a woman's body was understood as a vessel of life and continuity. It represented fertility, nurture, and spiritual balance. To elongate the labia, therefore, was not seen as an act of alteration, but as an act of refinement, enhancing what nature had given, just as one might adorn the body with beads or braids. It was symbolic of maturity, self-awareness, and readiness to bear children, to enter partnership, and to carry forward the legacy of family and community. The ritual also carried deep social meaning. Girls who underwent this teaching were seen as having crossed a threshold, leaving behind the innocence of childhood and stepping into a realm of wisdom and responsibility. Among the Baganda, womanhood was defined by grace, cleanliness, and restraint. A woman was expected to embody dignity, not only in her appearance but in her speech, movement, and manner. The teachings of the Senga, including Kukialara and Siko, were central to shaping that ideal. Historically, these teachings were passed on through storytelling and proverbs. The Senga might use metaphors about nature, likening a woman to a garden that must be tended with care, patience, and attention. Through these stories, the physical act of Kukialara and Siko was tied to a moral lesson, that womanhood is cultivated, not rushed. It was a lesson in patience and perseverance, values that extended beyond the body into every aspect of life, from how a woman managed her home to how she treated others. Moreover, the practice was a communal bond among women. When several young girls came of age around the same time, they would be taught together under the guidance of their Senga. This created a sisterhood, a shared experience that connected them deeply, giving them a sense of belonging. These intimate mentorship spaces were where women learned to trust one another, to share stories, and to support each other in life's transitions. Colonial encounters and Western influence later misunderstood or condemned these practices, categorizing them as primitive. Yet to the Baganda, these were not acts of harm but expressions of identity, ways of preserving knowledge in a world that had long valued oral tradition. The Baganda viewed Kukialara and Siko as a rite that sustained cultural pride and reinforced social cohesion. Even in modern times, many Baganda women who were guided through the practice speak about it with nostalgia and respect. For them, it represents continuity, a connection to their mothers, grandmothers, and the ancestral lineage of women who shaped the moral foundation of society. They often describe it as an education, one that went beyond biology, touching on emotional intelligence, relationship management, and self-respect. For these women, Kukialara and Siko remains a powerful metaphor. That womanhood, like a tree, grows with care and guidance. It is not something one stumbles into by accident, but something cultivated through the patient passing of wisdom from one generation to the next. And even as the world modernizes and redefines femininity, this ancient ritual stands as a reminder that cultural knowledge, when practiced with respect, safety, and consent, can be a source of pride, not shame. The process of labia elongation is deeply guided and intentional. It often begins around the ages of 9 to 13, when the Senga decides that a young girl is ready to learn the secrets of womanhood. She gathers the girls privately, away from the eyes of men, and begins to teach, not just the physical act, but the values that come with it. The stretching is done slowly, using natural oils, herbs, or warm water to ease the process. The most commonly mentioned herb is omuleuza, believed to soothe the skin and aid in elongation. Girls are advised to be patient, to treat it not as a race, but as a ritual that takes time, consistency, and care. But beyond the physical technique, the Senga uses these moments as teaching sessions. She instructs them on hygiene, on how to carry themselves with confidence, and how to handle relationships respectfully. These are moral lessons wrapped in ritual. In the traditional Baganda home, the Senga's word was final. Her teachings were sacred. For many women, these moments were more than just preparation for marriage. They were lessons in self-awareness and body autonomy. They learned to understand their bodies in ways few modern institutions teach today. The act, though intimate, was about knowledge, discipline, and respect. In Baganda culture, labia elongation carries both social and intimate meaning. A woman who underwent the practice was considered mature, clean, and ready for marriage. It was a visible, though private, symbol of her preparedness, and in many communities, it elevated her social standing among peers. During marriage ceremonies, the Senga played a key role once again, sometimes verifying that the bride had completed Kukialara and Siko. This was not done as humiliation, but as cultural affirmation, a way to ensure that she had upheld the customs of her people and respected the wisdom of her lineage. Sexually, elongated labia were believed to enhance intimacy, creating pleasure and connection between partners. Many Baganda men considered it a mark of beauty and sensuality, while women viewed it as a source of confidence and self-control. The act of elongation, therefore, was not just for men's satisfaction, but for mutual fulfillment in marriage. While outsiders may interpret this through modern feminist debates, in the traditional Baganda setting, it was about harmony, between partners, between generations, and between the body and spirit. It represented readiness, understanding, and pride in one's womanhood. In modern Uganda, the conversation around labia elongation is complex. Some see it as a cultural treasure worth preserving, while others challenge it as outdated or even oppressive. The influence of education, religion, and Western beauty standards has caused many younger women to question whether it's still relevant today. Health professionals often stress that, unlike female genital mutilation, labia elongation does not involve cutting or removal. When done voluntarily and hygienically, it poses minimal health risks. Still, critics argue that girls should never be pressured into it, that it should be a matter of personal choice, not societal expectation. Feminist voices across Africa have offered diverse opinions. Some condemn it as patriarchal conditioning, while others embrace it as a rare example of women's agency over their own bodies. For those who choose it freely, the practice can be an act of empowerment, a statement that tradition and self-expression can coexist. Today the debate continues. And perhaps the true measure of progress lies not in abolishing tradition, but in transforming it, making it voluntary, informed, and rooted in self-respect rather than conformity. Despite modernization, labia elongation remains quietly practiced across Uganda, from rural villages to urban Kampala. It may not be as public as it once was, but within many Baganda families, the Senga's teachings endure. The difference now is choice. For the new generation of Baganda women, Kukialara and Siko is not a demand but an option, a personal journey rather than a collective expectation. Many practice it for reasons of intimacy, confidence, or simply to honor their heritage. Others reject it, preferring to define womanhood on their own terms. Both choices are valid, and both reflect how culture evolves with time. In a world that often dismisses African traditions as primitive, labia elongation stands as a reminder that not all cultural practices are rooted in harm. Some are rooted in wisdom, tenderness, and continuity. The Senga's legacy is not just about the body. It's about identity, mentorship, and the strength of womanhood passed through generations. For the Baganda, to speak of Kukialara and Siko is to speak of respect for the body, for culture, and for the stories that define who they are. The world may not fully understand this practice, but for many women, it remains a sacred echo of belonging. In every culture, some traditions fade, while others evolve, carried forward by those who still find meaning in them. For the Baganda, Kukialara and Siko remains more than a ritual. It's a thread that ties generations of women together. It speaks of patience, mentorship, and the quiet power of knowledge passed from elder to youth. It reminds us that womanhood in all its forms is shaped not just by biology, but by the values, stories, and care that surround it. And as Uganda continues to modernize, this practice stands as a mirror, reflecting how culture can adapt without losing its soul. The Senga's lessons may sound different today, but the heart of the message endures, that to know oneself and to understand one's body and heritage is to honor those who came before. Because in the end, Kukialara and Siko is not only about the past. It's about identity, belonging, and the timeless wisdom of women who keep tradition alive, one story at a time. Thank you for watching. If you've enjoyed learning about the deep cultural roots of the Baganda people, remember, Africa's stories are endless, and each one carries a heartbeat of wisdom, beauty, and resilience. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more untold stories from across the continent. Until next time, keep exploring, keep learning, and keep discovering Africa's soul.